Well, it has been something of a charm offensive. You look at the Chinese telecom giant Huawei. It's been spending millions of dollars in advertising and lobbying efforts trying to win the hearts and minds and, more importantly, probably the 5G contracts of countries all around Europe. This comes as the company is still facing restrictions in doing business here in the United States, where it's seen by the government as being a national security threat. We're joined by Andy Purdy. Andy is Huawei's chief security officer. So, Andy, I want to start not so much broadly in Europe, but let me focus a little bit on the UK, and then we can broaden out the discussion a little bit. As I say, and everybody already knows, Huawei facing the blacklist here in the United States. President Trump's national security advisor, Robert O'Brien, was interviewed by the Financial Times, and he spoke about whether your company would do business in the United Kingdom or continue to. And he basically said if the UK doesn't blacklist Huawei the same as the United States has, Huawei could come in and steal state secrets from the British government and the British people. How concerned are you that Boris Johnson will follow Donald Trump and blacklist Huawei?
Well, the fact is the United States government for the last 12 months has been working hard in numerous capitals around the world, particularly in Europe, to try to get the European countries, the member states of the European Union included, to bar Huawei from participating. And I think the United States government's been very disappointed that Europe and the UK are taking an approach that looks at real cybersecurity risk and how can you address that risk with transparency. And that's
right,
what we're doing
business,
in the UK.
You're still doing business in many of these countries, to your point, and you expect to continue that? What about the UK? Is a ban on Huawei a possibility or a concern in the UK?
Well, we have over 62 contracts around the world, mostly in Europe, for 5G.
Right. And you expect all of those to continue or to even go up?
They're recently signed, yes, and we expect them to continue. We're working very closely with the UK government to address their concerns. We've got a close working relationship with them. So we hope that we're going to be able to meet the requirements so that we can help make the communication networks in the UK secure.
Are they the same as the U.S., that you essentially pose a threat to national security, that Huawei's technology could be used to spy? That we know the story, we've heard the allegations here in the U.S., that the government in China could come in and say, we need access to this data. Same concerns from the UK, and how do you answer those concerns when they come up in other countries? How do you essentially prove that you're not a threat?
Well, the concerns are expressed by the United States government through various governments. The UK government has some particular concerns because they have a very strict regimen of analyzing our products for the benefit of all the telecom operators. So we are open to having independent testing of our products so that can guarantee that there are no backdoors and can guarantee that our employees are not doing anything improper on behalf of the China or any other government.
Well, that's the issue on the backdoors is come up over and over again, and many times you're fighting, to some extent, a hypothetical, what could happen rather than what has already happened. There are some exceptions. The Vodafone case has been talked about, I suppose, in Italy. But for the most part, other actions that employees at Huawei have taken over the years, whether it's something to do with intellectual property theft, have been raised, or more recently what I've heard, and it's come up, I believe, in the UK, concerns about human rights. And I do want to ask you specifically about that, and how does the company answer those concerns? Most people have been following the news, you know, in China, know about the situation with people known as the Uyghurs in China, an oppressed people. There's a new report out of a group in Australia that mentions Huawei. And again, it's come up in these conversations in the UK. It's the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. And they specifically say that your company, Huawei, has worked extensively in Xinjiang province in China, and that work has been directly with the Chinese public security bureaus. So the question there is, has Huawei either created or helped to create any of the surveillance technology that's being used to oppress the Uyghurs?
There were multiple questions embedded in your question, and I hope someday I have a chance to answer them all. But starting with the last question you raised about human rights, we sell technologies to providers who then supply smart cities and other solutions. So we sell to third parties who may engage 100 or 200 different contracts.
This report says there was direct involvement. Can you explicitly say that Huawei is not directly involved with that technology?
I have never heard an allegation or seen any evidence that Huawei was directly involved in helping governments commit human rights abuses.
But this group in Australia says that Huawei has worked extensively, and that work includes working directly with the Chinese government's public security bureaus. Has that happened in that area?
I have never heard that allegation before, and I've certainly seen no evidence of that. And frankly, some of the things that the U.S. government has been saying publicly that are demonstrably false really raise some questions about what we're doing in the public space.
Okay, the other issue that you've had issue with this week is this Wall Street Journal report, right? And the Journal came out with a story, I believe it was out there on Christmas Day, and it said that Huawei's received as much as $75 billion in support from the Chinese government, whether that be tax breaks, financing. They also said cheap resources and what have you. It all added up, they say, to $75 billion. Huawei has disputed that. You've given us and others a statement disputing that number. I want to focus on part of it. The $46 billion that the Journal reports comes from loans, credit lines, and other support from state banks, direct lending from state banks, where the implication, I suppose, is that you would have a competitive advantage over European companies and or American companies that don't receive that kind of support. Is that number accurate? $46 billion loans, credit lines, and other support?
No, it's not. And in fact,
what's the real number?
The real number is about $40 billion less than that.
So $6 billion.
There's about $4 billion that are lines of credit that have been provided to our customers over a period of about 10 years. And of the actual lines of credit, as I said, only about $4 billion has been utilized when you're talking about revenues of hundreds of billions of dollars.
Has been utilized.
It's a small number.
That's right. But the number, so where does the 46 come from?
Well, they're claiming, and of course they were using information provided by the U.S. government that was absolutely demonstrably false and significantly, inflated. And the fact is, I think the U.S. government should tell the truth when they're filing papers with the FISA court and when they're making public comments or providing information to the Wall Street Journal. The fact is, they know and should know that credit lines available are different than credit lines being utilized, and there is a big difference.
Well, the money, so as I'm understanding it right, your contention is the money was available to be used, the credit line that could have been drawn down, but it wasn't utilized.
It was not utilized by our customers to buy our products. That's right. So there was no unfair favoritism provided by China-backed financing.
So the context of this, just the Journal, by the way, stands by its reporting. I'll be clear on that. But the context of this is that essentially you would have a competitive advantage, as I said earlier, and that's one of the reasons that your products would be priced cheaper, that you'd be able to come in with cheaper products than Ericsson or some other companies that you compete with.
Well, the Cisco figure corresponding to our $75 billion was about $45 billion for Cisco. So if the credit lines are not utilized, then we're not getting an unfair advantage because of the financing. All
right, Andy, it's nice to have you on. This is the first time you've been on our show. The Huawei executives have been on, and we'll continue to have these conversations into 2020. But you're confident the business in the UK is going to work out, it sounds like.
I'm not making predictions. We are working in earnest with the UK government, and they're very serious to make sure that the risks can be addressed, and that, as the UK Parliamentary Committee said, the UK networks are safer with Huawei being one of the providers.
All right. Andy Purdy. Thank you, Andy.
You're welcome.
All right.